3000.
What is doing? My name's Maloney. This is the 3000 podcast. I'm joined today by Nic Oogjes, aka Cong Josie. Thanks for coming, Nic.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me. It's good to be here. In Nam.
Did I butcher your name, man?
No, that was pretty good.
Yeah.
I probably butcher it if there's Dutch watchers, listeners, they might be questioning the Oogjes pronunciation. Yeah.
It's an unusual spelling for most people that are used to English sort of spelling names. I guess all names come from different places.
That's right.
But it is a hard one to get your head around.
It's been a fun time growing up with that name, for sure. My full name is Nicolaas, like double A-S, Nicolaas Johannes Oogjes. So my dad went full with his Dutch heritage there.
Yeah.
It's fun.
It's interesting. Like, I grew up with a lot of Greek kids, and everyone had their Greek name and then their kind of like anglicized name. You're like at home, they're Dimos, but then they're James or Jimmy, or, you know.
Yeah. Yep. George, Yorgos.
Yorgos, yeah.
And Duxie.
Yeah.
Man,
Nicolaas was another one, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Nick. Oogie, I got a lot.
Yeah.
Oogles. Orgy. Also, one time, we're going straight into one time a PE teacher, looking back, it was probably like quite problematic, but we were playing basketball or something, and he yelled out, Oogie all night long. And I'm like, yeah, it stuck with me, that one. I've repressed many memories, but that one sticks out. So feel free to call me that, anyone, if you see me on the street. Oogie all night long. Yeah.
So that does lead us into a good start, because we like to do these chats kind of as linear as possible. So let's talk about growing up at school. How'd you get involved in music, or you're into sport, you're into art? Like, how did you find this creative sort of scene?
If we go right back to 1982,
that's when
I was born. Class of 2000. You know, the millennial bug is what it was. But before that, I was just a wee little baby. And where do I start? I was an only child. Right. And I found myself alone a lot. And then I found art, I guess, and it's running my family. My grandma's a great artist. My cousin's a great artist. And so art was, I wasn't really a part of the family's cult, like as in my immediate families, but I just found it, and I became that kid that can draw, you know, and then I was drawing velociraptors for kids and lots of intricate, like, people shooting each other, of course.
Ninja Turtles.
Kind of this style. I remember when I was in primary school of like almost a loonig, kind of like a big nose kind of people.
Yep.
Big eyes. Drawings of Axl Rose, running in little scenes and stuff like that. So anyway, I was always into visual arts, and my first ever memory was that I was going to be a cartoonist. It hasn't happened yet. But yeah, so art was always my thing. And then...
Did the family embrace the art?
Yeah, I think I was encouraged.
Yep.
Yeah, it became like my identity in a way. And it's something I've dealt with in more recent times, like, is all my creative output like all of me? It's like, that's jumping to the present almost, but like it's been interesting trying to divorce those two things, and it's been really good. But and then in high school, I was always into music. I love music. There was a lot of music in the house in the 90s, and it relates to Cong Josie, so I mention it. I remember being pummeled with, as you would remember, like 50s, 60s archetypes of cool, like Roy Orbison had come back with You Got It, 90210 had like the Peach Pit. It goes on and on and on. There's heaps of, like, they were playing Happy Days after school. You remember that?
Always. Yeah. That really confused me personally.
Yeah.
Because of like the Wonder Years, because you watch it, but it was a throwback to earlier, and I'm like, well, I know this is set before us, but the Wonder Years is made in the 70s. No, sorry, not the Wonder Years.
happy days,
maybe
70s,
the 70s, but
50s,
And my 9-year-old brain couldn't really comprehend that.
You're right. I think I was kind of the same. But the one thing that I took, the Grease Mega Mix. Did you ever dance to the Grease Mega Mix?
Yeah, the Grease. Yeah.
The summer. Are we gonna do it? No. 9. Been practicing that a little bit. I always thought they were singing out of tune because that's how we did it as kids. But he's doing a great falsetto. Of course, they're not singing. They're beautiful singers. He just does the 50s doo-wop falsetto. But so that really ingrained in me that period, which is probably more relevant for late. Then I got into punk music, and then I got really into hip hop. Actually, it was kind of I see there's a bit of that vibe here, and I've seen your podcast, and I did graffiti for a while. I did breakdancing, and I was then I got into turntablism.
Cool.
Around the time I remember DJ Dexter was like probably my biggest inspiration from the Avalanches and whatnot. Right into watching the DMC championships and stuff like
2001, 2002,
Yeah. Should have won.
I've known Dexter for a long time.
Right.
I talk to him often-ish.
Yeah.
And I've tried to get him on the show, and he's not quite ready, but hopefully one day, man. Hopefully one day.
Well, you need to know DJ Dexter. Well, you probably already do. You don't need Cong Josie or me to say that you're an inspiration.
For sure. And that is interesting because the turntablism is another thing that came back in that era from a 20-year sort of throwback because it was really big in the 80s and then late 90s, early 2000s, it came back again with the breakdancing sort of thing, had that sort of 20-year resurgence.
Yeah, for sure. And of course it was the time when, dare I say, there was a lot of rap metal or new metal and
crossover stuff.
Crossover stuff, but some quite interesting things as well. But I was of that age, and there was like a drummer was still a really great mate and was in my band, Nozu, Mitch. He was always the drummer of the school. I played drums too. I forgot to mention that, but he was the drummer. There could only be one at the school. You know what I mean? In terms of identity, like, oh no, Mitch he's the good drummer.
You're the guy who draws and drums.
Yeah. I didn't have the dedication like I never have with anything in life to really dedicate myself. But he was in a band with two people, Luke Hodgson, who's still playing around a lot, like does lots of session work and some other great stuff. But they were super talented, and a guy called Ben, and like they were like the most like talented kids in the school.
What school? Where are you? What area?
Montmorency, so next to Greensboro.
Yep.
And they were really into Parliament Funkadelic. Yeah. And we're 3 or 4 white kids out in the green suburbs.
But Parliament pretty much set the tone for where that 90s hip hop went to. It's very, very. It was sampled, a lot of it, and that was kind of like the building blocks to where hip hop was going.
Yeah,
but
totally.
They were appreciating.
Well, they were completely instrumental, and they were doing that. And I came in not unlike what a lot of people would think. Sometimes I got more courage than I have talent, or drive. That drive has just always been there. And I somehow weaseled my way into this group on the turntables, and I brought rapping actually. Yeah, I forgot about that.
So you were the DJ turntablist for the group with the drummer that was Parliament Funkadelic inspired.
Slap bass. Yeah.
Wow.
It was called Stanley. And it was so fun. We won this battle.
Like Stanley, like the artist.
Well, they just called it a name like Stanley. I think it was a joke.
Not Stanley.
No, but I changed it. Like, why did I have the power to do that and bring in a turntables? And then I brought rapping into it. And this is actually really cool to talk about because I never talk about this part of like growing up. Because it hasn't seemed very relevant to my other acts. But it's interesting because just thinking about that, because I grew up on the Hursty line, Borough to Eltham, Bias B.
Yep, there's a Bias B tag right behind you.
Oh, wow, don't touch that. Like, just outside Montmorency. I don't know if it's still there, but there was a big piece that he'd done, and it was never touched the whole time I saw. I haven't been out there for a while. And it would have been around 2000 that like seminal Melbourne hip hop CD came out with the red and some graffiti.
Yeah, Culture of Kings.
Culture of Kings, yeah. And I remember going to Latrobe just out of high school, Latrobe Uni, and just pounding that. But the thing that was so awesome was it was the first time I'd ever heard my area mentioned, and people talking about Melways and people talking about Melbourne things.
Gives you an identity straight away.
And also like straight away I just rapped about, actually where I was from and just what like that kind of thing, Aussie accent obviously, and now I still do it. Like I've got a song on the Cong album that's talking about the Eastern Freeway where I grew up driving, and I think it's a deliberate thing in my head, knowing that people can hear things and directly relate.
Yeah.
I might not hear that often, yeah.
That's super cool because I was obviously the same age listening to it.
Yeah.
And I'm growing up where there's no trains.
Where are you?
I'm in Port Melbourne at this stage.
Okay.
And then we moved to Elwood, and there is a train there, the Sandy Line. But the Sandy Line's not cool, right? And we're hearing about the Hurstbridge Line. I've never been on the Hurstbridge Line. I'm on the Sandy Line, which is like a pretend line. It's not a pretend line, but it's not a huge. It's not,
Yeah,
and I'm like, fuck, the Hursty line sounds cool, and I'd never been there as like a 14-year-old kid.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't that badass. Like, oh no, it goes through some of the inner city if you get on one of those stopping all stations.
And the line that we had 3 Brighton stations.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a beach view the whole way. Now, I'm not hating on the Sandy line, but if I'd catch that to go to school, it wasn't a real struggle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Greensey Station was always a bit of fun, but otherwise you end out in some very nice areas.
But that's super cool that you could hear your local areas, and that makes you go, fuck, I can rap in this accent. I can do, like, other people are talking about it. I'm going to do this sort of shit too.
Yeah, that's exactly the case, and it's and it's great to, I know you've had Al Carlson on here and other people that are unashamedly like, talk about very specific things that are really relatable to people in the smaller social and
Yeah, and it is a really cool time to start making music because the lines are blurred between rap, rock, about, with even like, groups like Regurgitator and stuff are making electronic music that also is rap music, which also rock music, which is also avant-garde music. Like the Avalanches again, like the Dexter thing. Like there's a lot going on. It doesn't have to be a certain specific genre. Yeah,
totally. I think that's right. Like even in terms of the acts that we play with, there's no one else that sounds like us. So. But basically, we often play like with a dark wave or a cold wave act or a more cabaret-ish, like, more outlandish act or punk acts. And that's a bit separate to what you're saying. But
the lines were blurred though.
Yeah, totally.
When you're saying that you're at that earlier stage, into punk music, is that original sort of punk or is that more the newer wave of punk?
Well, of course it was the time of I actually did my work experience at Shock Records, which was sick, and they had all the Epitaph stuff. And one of the guys working there, what band he was from? Damn, I've lost it now. Was it Travis from The Living End? There was he worked there, and but anyway, so there was bands like. So I was aware from like The Living End, and we used to go to all ages shows, like Freezer shows.
Pushover.
Yeah, well, actually, and I didn't get to brag about that band, Stanley. We ended up winning all these Battle of the Bands and played Pushover Festival.
Wow.
And so that really set, I guess from there, it was like, I was too addicted to ever stop.
and at that stage, Stanley playing Pushover with like, I guess, 28 Days of sort of headlining.
Well, we actually played a Freezer event, like full circle moment at the age of 18 or 19. For that age, we'd go to Eltham Roller Rink, and they always had like Grinspoon. Like it was that period where like there were acts that you heard on the radio or came out, to soft acts like the Fauves or the Mavises.
Fauves did a lot of that,
Yeah. And we ended up playing the very last one of those that they ran with 28 Days.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. And I remember they're actually really lovely guys. Yeah.
I'm trying really hard to get Jay on the show here.
Right.
I'm trying.
Yeah.
It's one step at a time.
Dexter, Jay. Who else we got? Who we hunting down?
Slowly.
Please send their addresses and phone numbers directly to me.
I think I've got both their phone numbers. I just don't want to badger them too much.
Don't worry about badgering people. It's the only way to get things done in this world.
So that's really cool. So you're doing these gigs. Stanley, you're rapping. You're doing the turntable thing.
Is this shocking people?
No, it's great. It's good. And then does that, like, how does that play out after school? Do you continue after school?
Yeah. So what did happen? That part of my memory is a bit hazy. I think, I was studying art and doing things like that a lot at the time. And then I kind of...
Like fine arts? What are you studying?
Oh, I did screen print design.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Remember stenciling? It still happens, but I got into I was in that time as well. Remember that was big.
Well, that was definitely the stencil thing was because Banksy starts to blow up. Everyone's doing stencils, and they start to realize these things can also become like screen printing sort of stencils. And then they
It was a really I didn't ever finish it because I just had to do one business subject, and this probably shows something to do with my brain, and I never did it. But there was a great drawing program with this artist Phil Doggett. And he really got me out of my head, which really has helped with all creative processes. I remember going to a drawing class. We did live drawing, all sorts of stuff. And I was just really stylized. You know, when you see someone drawing and they're like, well, you've done this several times, but you make, like, especially in a still life context, you're not letting yourself go.
Yep.
And I think eventually I learned that lesson. And I think even my musical projects are intuitive and just like, what's going on in the moment, bam, 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 get it out.
Remove yourself from it in a way.
Or submit to the process, and it's all about the process. The process is the whole thing. It's not the outcome. Does that make sense? Or just leaning into what it is, I guess, like leaning into the unknown. Mm-hmm. Always excavating. Sorry, I'm going off track.
No, this is
Stick
great.
with
this is
the linear.
It's all about. No.
All right.
This is the idea is we take it on a linear fashion.
Yeah.
Tangents.
Yeah. So
my job is to bring it back. But when you're on a tangent, my job is to let you stay on the tangent.
I'm all tangent. That's what I am.
So that's why I'm here. I can bring you back.
Not like the Hursty line. I don't go in a linear way. But it's like those, it just made me think of those Netflix things where they like go off and then they go and it goes back to the 1976.
Yeah, that is cool. I love those sort of things.
I love them too. I'm glad they're ubiquitous throughout Netflix true crime documentaries.
And they do a good job of it on the Instagrams when people do this is what music is now, and it came back. It all started in 1967 with this, like that sort of stuff, that timeline stuff.
Yeah,
that's happening in my head now.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. We've both got different visuals happening from TV shows and Instagram. All right.
Good stuff. All right, so let's now. This is my
all
job.
Right, we're back.
Let's bring us back.
2004. So I do remember now. That's good that we went on tangent. So as happens, you start getting exposed to different things, and I guess from that punk leaning, I started to kind of become aware. I remember I was working at the Cat Protection Society.
Okay, yeah.
It's a secret society. No, it's a cat pound in Greensboro. It was my first job, cleaning up disgusting cages, medicating kittens, getting the gruel.
Cats. You love cats, obviously.
I wasn't a cat person, but I became a cat person. But not from that. Not from that. Carrying, dare I go morbid, but carrying lots of body bags. Get your cats desexed and into bins. It's not good. The ones that they have to.
They don't. You can't home them, so they.
If they can't get homed, or if they're stray generally. You can't bring them back. So this is the sad part of the podcast, but we'll let people feel.
Cartoons have led us to believe that cats that are stray are hanging around in alleys doing deals, being cool,
being hep cats.
Yeah, that's not the reality.
I love those cats. They're cool.
They're wearing hats and jackets and...
Yeah. Yeah, they got street smarts. Well, they do have street smarts, but they also kill lots of native animals. So let's just anyway. Yeah, I remember listening to my iPod shuffle. So hopefully the time frame's still working out, and people aren't like, "Nah, man, that was 2000 and something else."
Close enough, yeah.
And loading it up and finding compilation. Remember Soul Jazz was releasing all those compilations?
Yep.
Some good hip hop electronic things, and they had a no wave one. Like, do you know no wave?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for others that don't know, downtown New York, small group of people mixing all sorts of music.
Avant-garde.
Even some hip hop stuff like Futura 2000 was involved. Basquiat was involved. It was this just melting pot. ESG, like
it was artistic music. It was muso's music.
It was, but there was also with a lot of them a real emphasis on groove and stuff like that, like bands like Liquid and that I love, and ESG and stuff like that. Only kind of saying this because this was a link. We were making like groove-based music, obviously, in my other band, and I started hearing weirder sounds and well, I shouldn't say weirder, just intriguing to me, atonal sounds and stuff like that. And so I started getting a bug with that. I started trying to bring in different like kind of singing styles in the band. And, you know, as all things, I think it was all just kind of going in its different ways by then. We're, you know, young, early
and they're
20s.
like, Nick, stick to the turntables. And you're like, I want to bring these
probably
unusual sounds. And they're like...
Yeah. It often makes me think, like, I was always, like, excited, like, I can't play guitar or anything. But, like, when my friend would have, like, weird pedals and stuff, I just wanted to hear the sounds and play with them. But I didn't really think that was legitimate. So I've built a whole career on well, like, just trying to find that. Well, and not just about weird, just, like, any sound, for some reason, in our evolutionary, whatever, makeup of our brains just make us feel these different things. Like, one example, like, of a classic hip-hop song, like, that I think has this feeling is The Message by Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. Just that...
It's probably one of the coolest beats of all time.
Yeah, the beat's sick, but they're those synth sounds just take you in places. Whether it's like what you like or not, these are the kind of things I've always been attracted to. And so... From there,
that lyrically though paints an amazing picture.
Yeah,
also,
it does.
So that is the full package.
Yeah.
Of, you know, like, you can, when I listen to that song, I feel like I'm in late 1970s, early 80s New York City, where the city's burning. Like, you feel that. It's
like you can almost smell it from that
a little
song.
bit. I've never been to New York, but I'm sure it doesn't smell great at that point of time.
Nah. It wouldn't have. Yeah, and kind of even that kind of fantasy or that projection of things, that's something I've always, like the 50s, 60s rock and roll thing. Hip hop early starts, and then even with the punk stuff, I went right back, and I often like what we're trying to do, go linear back. And then the no wave thing, I really like, but I romanticize these things because we can't ever know. There was probably like lots of really complicated stuff. Things aren't just the awesome pictures that you see and stuff. Surely, like, we know it's great music, but I kind of almost like make these imaginary places out of these worlds. And so I just really wanted to do something like no wave, where it's really real community focused. I've jumped ahead. I missed the whole band, but
that's okay. All right. Well, we can. Okay. Well, that's okay. Stanley finishes.
All right.
Stanley. But hang on. While we're on Stanley, I've got a few questions because I'm curious, right?
Yeah.
As someone who's DJed for a while.
Yeah.
So you're in that early 2000s. So you're even at school, right? So you're just after school. So late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
So you are actually DJing with records. There's no Serato. There's no CDJs. There's none of that. So you're playing records and you're finding samples and you're adding to the band's live acts, live shows with samples that you found from records.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've then discovered like Obese Records. So intimidated to go into most of those stores. Sometimes I'd buy a record because I just picked it up and didn't want to walk out of there without fine. Oh, I just thought it looked
but
cool.
You're buying the Breaks records?
Yeah. So I bought a whole bunch of Breaks records, classic samples. But then, I'd really try to find like just any unusual. And I started, digging and stuff.
Yeah. Could you loop that stuff? You couldn't really loop it then, though, could you?
Oh, no, just if you've got two of the same record.
And you'd literally have to juggle like that to keep that playing, yeah.
Oh, yeah, in that band, it was more sample based and scratching and some transforming and
amazing
stuff like that. Yeah, I'd love to do it again. But you know what I did? I sold my turntables for drums. And so that's how things happen when...
this is the thing, man.
And they were 1,200...
so 1200s from, and I'm guessing then they would have been like Mark 2, 3, 4 or something, right? So they would have been
Mark 2, I think. 2, yeah.
So they would still now be worth more than probably what you bought them for.
Yeah.
And there's not too much technology out there in the world that holds their value like that.
Yeah, I've still got my Vestax mixer, my battle mixer, I think it is. Yeah,
2-channel.
Yeah, 2-channel. Yeah. And. Yeah, so then I think I had a bit of a break from music for a bit, but was trying to do arts and all sorts of
The other dudes
things.
stopped music as well?
No, they all kept not in the same project. I think they kind of disbanded. People went other places, and then we reconnected with Mitch later, and now Mitch, the drummer that I was saying, is playing drums with this punk band Split System, who are incredible. Yeah, they've just been on tour in the States, and they're incredible. They're so powerful and awesome. So yeah, we haven't grown up. Is what we say. It's funny, and we had people. I remember in high school, people going like, "I reckon you guys are going to keep doing this stuff," and so all these years later. But then I got asked. So I was a drummer. I'm getting back on track. Yeah.
All right.
And I was at an Interpol gig, as was the fashion of the day. So I got into the whole, what they call indie sleaze period.
Yeah.
Like I kind of transformed from like big jeans. Oh, this is a great story for the listeners. Yeah. So we played I reckon it was one of our last gigs, and I've only had my memory as Stanley. We played at Laundry one time. Must have been 2001, I reckon. And we got there just as a band had finished, and they looked like aliens to me. I was in my, I might have had one of those like beanies with a cap and a 3/4 baggy pants. I don't know.
Yeah. The DC shoes.
Yeah. But I went as fat as I could for a while. Remember the globes and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, gee. Oh, then I tried to get into, the more niche ones. I can't even actually think of any of them now. You know when a new, like, little brand would pop up and you'd be like aesthetics or something like that? You'd be like, I'm actually into
that was the French one. Yeah.
That was a fun time of consumerism, of coolness. Yeah, I used to watch heaps of skate vids. Guess I didn't mention that. I've just done all the childlike stuff. Nah, it's not child. I still do it. I used to skateboard as well. This all kind of merges into the same thing. Same. Interpol gig. I was into. Oh no, I almost gave it up. Laundry.
Yeah, Laundry.
You're like, yes,
Laundry 2001.
Yes, we get there. There's a Triple R poster like at the back of the wall, and we're like, this is pretty sweet. Like, is this something Triple R? They start taking it down. There's the alien-looking people at the bar. It turns out they were the Strokes before they got big. So we headlined we played after. We headlined the Strokes.
Wow.
Well, it wasn't actually probably officially part of the same gig, but their pants were super tight. They looked so cool. They looked like achingly cool. And then I only remembered recently from Mitch or Luke talking to me that they were on the internet. Sorry, gang, I love you. You've done great work, but they were complete arseholes and like getting really smashed at the back of the bar. We probably had like 20 people watching us. I don't know. And just laughing and like talking really loud and stuff like that and not paying any attention to our intricate stuff. But that's just kind of a funny little anecdote.
Yeah, no,
And then my pants seemed to magically shrink in the next year. And my hair got shaggier.
And you started to call yourselves the Stanleys.
No, then I think by that time, once my pants shrunk somehow, I was really into skateboarding again. I was doing a lot of that, and probably, you know how you kind of like just refresh yourself, or not rebelling against what Stanley was maybe, but dug back into punkier. Loved the guitar again, but I also worked with post-punk, finding their roots in post-punk.
That sort of trend does change because you've got with the skinny jeans and like I'm talking from not just a musical standpoint, but from a skateboarding standpoint.
Yeah.
Baker comes out, right?
Baker. Now Jim Greco.
Right. So pants get a lot skinnier in that. People start to... So that whole rock and roll ethos, the same sort of thing that the Strokes are wearing, comes into skating as well, big time. Dustin Dolan, like all that shit, you know?
Yeah.
That kicks off and that changes the aesthetic, not only in skateboarding, but also in music.
Yeah, I was just all about it. Like, I just remember this, they call it flair all the time. Like, if you could really skate and it could look really interesting, you just like, it was everything for me. I remember watching Sorry's flip skateboard video. Ali Boulala, he was another rock and roll skateboarder. Yep. And like my friends watching as well and going, "Whoa, look at it, did that kickflip." I'm like, sick pants. Oh, I love this song. Is it David Bowie? I've never heard this before. But like discovered so much music. It really broadened my music because often they're really interesting musical choices.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it did, and skating and skate videos went from what was a lot of sort of East Side hip hop in the late 90s.
Some hardcore as well, maybe.
Yeah, there was. It was a bit of, but it was very. I think the late 90s, the big pants, the big shoes, was very hip hop with the musical choices of the skate videos. Yeah. And then in the early 2000s, and once Baker came in, it kind of changed the musical choices of people.
Yeah, it's like you could have almost anything,
which is what it originally was.
Yeah.
It just had that moment.
Yeah. And so that was probably a good time, I guess, where I wasn't really making music, but I guess I just kind of, that like almost mid-20s, just under, like just reforming, like really discovering things to get me to a point that at the Interpol gig, a friend that I'd met, a young British man, was starting a band and he gave me a tape of his demos. And that was a band called Tik Tok Tokyo, and I loved his demos. It sounded like Wire or something like that. Very British, very angular, as the word was thrown around a lot then. And I was loving like the Rapture, but I loved that they sounded a bit like the pop group from the 80s, and there's dub in there. And so this is all the mix, but got into this band. It was so fun. But then I started bringing in funk things because of that in my part. Like like even when you mix funk into, like the Clash did some really great stuff in that respect that I think is like phenomenal, like Radio Clash and stuff like that.
Yep.
And so I started, like, I guess my things from Parliament and stuff, which was never what I was in, and hip hop and stuff like that. It like all just kind of funneled in there, and that's kind of what led to Nozu. Yeah.
And so then Nozu, you're the main driving force.
Yeah, the NO is my initials.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, and I just wanted, once again, aesthetically, like two letter things that look good. Yeah. And
also you've got the no wave kind of reference there a little bit.
Yeah. It's funny that I was going on about rock and roll because what I found in that whole scene, and so the no wave thing was kind of like an anti-wave, which became its own wave. Like in retrospect, people put that there, but that idea of no in the 70s and 80s was really big, like a strong, you know how punk is kind of like anti-establishment, anti-stuff. Yeah. Sorry, what was the rest?
I was saying the Nozu was like a reference to no wave, and that's kind of that sort of.
It would have, like more minimal things. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, anti. So the whole indie sleaze thing, that was a shit fight. that was like, ding dong. Everyone's too cool for school. Everyone was trying to outcool each other with their Rocco shoes. I was one of them, by the way. I'm not bagging other people out. And there was an era of Mess and Noise. Do you remember Mess and Noise?
No.
It was kind of like an underground music mag, but they had an online, really toxic forum. I remember, like, it was just very bitchy time. I think maybe something with the success of like Jet and the Vines and stuff like that, maybe fed into this kind of ambition thing.
Yeah.
So Nozu came about like as an almost anti rock and roll thing again, which is interesting to come back.
Yeah.
No guitar at the start for many, many years. No guitar, emphasis on being a collective and community, or I guess you could say.
A bit like the funkadelic sort of stuff.
Yeah, I brought it back in. Yeah. And there's even like James White and the James White of the Blacks, or James Chance, that's from that period with like in this movie Downtown 81 that sees Basquiat walk around. And he had this stage set up. It was more later Nozu, with like girls in like matching satin dresses. He's like in a suit. He was kind of trying to be like a white James Brown, but like with what's his name? Like Albert Ayler or something, like wild atonal saxophone on top. But it was a big cohort, which is not unlike when you see live Parliament Funkadelic. It's just like a menagerie. And I love, like, that whole thing must have stuck with me ever since I was 18 or whatever.
Yeah. So that's what I wanted. The early incarnation of that, you're like, okay, I want to build this whole crew, jam on stage together. It's going to be a real organic, fun, jamming kind of collective vibe. Is that the original idea?
Well, actually, that's where it got to, I should say.
So what was the original
concept? Idea was, it was just me.
That's not much of a collective.
It wasn't. No, this thing just built really organically.
So how did it start?
I've got Sound Recorder. I remember a Sound Recorder, just a program that you can record a mic into Windows. Okay. Like literally, it was like a record or play thing. I'm not sure if it was
GarageBand for Windows.
Not even it was one thing in just with them like just
when you'd listen to your MP3s, it just have that thing.
Yeah, it might have been that. It might have played on that sometimes. And I just recorded like samples actually, and you could slow things down half time, and I'd find intros from post-punk songs, and then I'd record drums or percussion on top and some kind of vocal or something, and that's all it was. And it was like deliberately anti-ambition, because I found like my band before that, and it wasn't the fault of anyone, but it was just the time that we were quite ambitious, and it was like the first one, and it was like an anti-ambition thing as well. And
we're not going to be the best, we're just going to do it.
Yeah, and I just did that with no intention. Like maybe one of the only times in my life that I just relaxed and did it. And it's so funny that like I remember, and then we kind of built into a little 3-piece. And
who were the other members? Tell us who they were.
Yeah, okay. So there was Andrew Noble, who played with us basically the whole time.
I know Andrew.
You know Andrew Noble?
Yeah, we used to call him Fancy Pants.
Fancy Pants? How do you know Andrew Noble? Or should we go? James Noble makes suits. Is this the same Andrew Noble?
Andrew Noble, yeah, he was from Malvern Way.
Yeah.
All right, so we're back.
We're back. We had to have a break.
So Fancy Pants.
Yeah, because we had to talk about Fancy Pants a bit. Yeah, he joined the band. Fancy Pants joined the band. He'll be getting that on the message thread shortly.
Oh, fancy.
Fancy Pants. So I think what I was saying about 3 hours ago, was it, when we just went out to a few bars and stuff, and now we're back. So the amazing thing, and another bass player, Adrian Vicino, and the amazing thing was, as soon as we started, actually, I've always got multiple thoughts in my head. The first ever show we played was this like super, dare I say, underground, like a shop front thing with one of my favorite artists of that time, and still like Lost Animal. That was our first ever show, and I was so scared. And it's also like it's weird that I just want to be places that scare me, and even music genres and stuff. Yeah, I can't help but jump into it as much as it scares me, and that's probably been a big help that part of my brain's there to keep things going for this long. But as soon as we started it, and I'm just saying from that non-ambitious in terms of career ambition and stuff like that, musically ambitious, of course, just wanting to explore. But people, hopefully I'm not sounding like I'm blowing my own horn here, whatever, but it honestly was such a genuine place with no expectations that people gravitated to it more than anything I'd ever done. And it was the first time that I'd kind of done something by myself, created all myself and had a whole world for it. So our first Sydney show was this awesome Good God bill with Egypt, 808, Egyptian Lover at the Opera House. That was our first ever Sydney gig that Good God, a great club, put on, and a bounce artist, and all the once again all this melding, but worlds that kind of related. From that time of downtown 81 where there was Latin music going on, there's hip hop and the no wave kids, and they did cross over. Mm-hmm. And it just so, as I said, it started solo, but I wanted to play live. Had those two, and then I was like, I don't know what the order was now, but I'd love a female vocalist, and Daphne came in, and I should mention a bunch of these people from Rat vs. Possum, a band then that were just all about collective party.
They were teetering on it. They were doing a lot of sort of Meredith and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
They got a little bit of sort of radio play as well, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we were all peers or whatever and friends and stuff like that. And it was a real time of being like, do you want to come in? But the thing that happened to get to the menagerie of the Parliament thing was nobody left. Yeah. And I didn't have the heart to ever be like, let's strip it right back. And then as that influence started coming back to me, I was like, you know what? We could just really combine this kind of all these worlds, really that. I didn't even consciously do it, but I'm guessing you're a music nerd I am.
I like music, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know if you're like me, but often when I get into something, whether it was when I didn't understand what the Smiths was about, and then so I need once again something that scares me, I have to get, or hip hop, hearing some stuff on PBS and recording on a cassette and hearing Far Side for the first time and things like that. I have to know more and understand it. And so I think those kind of, and everyone used to say that I go through fads, which is phases and fads, and that was really kind of I'm not traumatized by it, but I was always like, yeah, what's wrong with me? The pants shrinking and stuff. But I think it's just curiosity.
Yeah.
And I would make a really genuine attempt to know as much as I could
and
about it.
And you'd be boring if you stay in the same fucking thing the whole time.
Yeah, and also you can't control. I know I've had plenty of periods in my life where I've thought, I want to be all rock and roll, all punk, or all hip hop at one point or whatever. But just naturally, the curiosity of the human brain. But that really held me in good stead, I think, because I just had these subconscious things to draw on, and that made me feel like the music was something coming from me. I didn't even know where it was coming from, but I'd learned a lot about post-punk and all this, and explored far and wide.
So it starts with you. Noble joins.
Yep.
And then
Adrian. Yeah.
And then it starts to snowball from there until you've got a full collective. Are you still leading the charge? Are you giving it direction, or are people going, I've got this idea, this sample, I've heard this could be a track, this is the vibe? How do you do it as a crew, as a group?
Well, I think I was leading things the whole time, but even in my in Cong Josie and beautiful people I've got playing in my band, the Hellraisers. Oh, sorry, I'll stick to the microphone. What I've explained it as a lot, I think, and I think comes from the visual art background as well, like about world building. And I don't know where it comes from. I've had a very distinct idea at any time of what something is. And so then the people that come into it like it have somehow expressed that, and our friendship is there. And I know so much about them that people come into it already knowing what the limitations are, but then there's so much creativity within there that they can then play around with this particular set of ideas and other things that might be relevant and understand the sound. And yeah, so it did become collaborative in a sense that I can't play a musical note, which is true. Truth. But yeah, it's weird. And I'm still here talking about playing music for many 30 years. Yeah.
But with the drumming background, there's no notes. You know beats, right? From the DJ background, you don't need to know. You could and with the kind of music that you're playing that is a bit out there, if key clashes are happening, well, fucking whatever. That is what it is. So you don't need to know music. But when you are heading this collective, are you saying this is the direction we're going? You guys do the rest, or are you saying we need more of this here? We need more of this.
Yeah, well, like it slowly got a bit more musical because I knew that I was playing like some cheap synths and trying to find like the right things, and it kind of sounded cool. It was very atonal, but made it very limited. So then, like, you know, a synth player would come in
and do it like this,
and I just, I guess, once again, from like the playing with guitar pedals and stuff, just like gravitate and know the sounds that I like and don't like. And it only comes from little bits of someone going, oh, ding, ding. I'm like, what was that? Oh, maybe we just play that, but only ding, 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 like, and minimizing it, like a lot of people's ideas on what they might play regularly. And then it kind of just started to become what I called heat beat, what the heat beat sound was, which I'd already set up a little template for, so it wasn't crazy to people.
So if they came in, you'd say, this is the formula?
Yeah, or I'd be like, or we play like some groove in a jam, and instantly, like when I'm mixing music, like as in like sound mixing songs and stuff, like for records, not, you know.
Mixing.
Yeah. It's like the most beautiful, what do they call it these days? Like flow state kind of thing, like that. You know, anyone that does some kind of craft or art just knows that...
You feel it.
You know, if you're doing graffiti, you're like, oh, no, now because I've done that, I should add... I know that I should add this colour because that balances... And, you know, whatever. It's very much like painting. I know it's a cliche, but that's how I always saw it. And so I guess the more that I say, oh, that icy synth sounds sick, and maybe not that trance sound, you know, or whatever, it's... Everybody's has a collective understanding more and more, or the songs that I'm talking about, and bring in and like, have you heard this like song from the pop group or something from 1984, and it has all these elements, and like,
we can borrow from this,
or it would just give more background information as to what the limitations were, if you want to call them limitations. But actually, the beautiful thing with Nozu is that, like, I need some testimonials here. But there's been so many people that come in, especially when you start getting some young crew in, it's fresh blood, that came out of their shells and grew so much from being allowed is the wrong word, but given not a role, but like given kind of a world to work in. Like what one guy, Dan, who was playing trumpet for a long time, comes to mind. Lovely guy, very handsome. Never
handsome
really
Dan.
Yeah, you are very handsome, Dan. And had never really we ended up wearing like lots of fishnets and stuff. And by like the last, well, earlier than that, but was like grinding on people and stuff like that. And he said plenty of times like, oh, thank you for that. I never would have come out of or found that part of myself. So I don't think it was limiting to people. It just gave everyone a collective vision in a way.
Did the collective get so big that at some stage somebody comes to you and says, Nick, my friend can actually play the insert instrument here, and we don't have anyone that plays insert instrument here. Can they join? And you'd be like, fuck, it's getting a bit busy up there.
No, not can anyone, not anyone join, but like, say, I remember when Cayn Borthwick, who ended up collaborating with me on the Kong stuff, I was just like, maybe I was listening to a lot of Fela Kuti or something at the time, I don't know, or heard some great sax in something else, and I was like, Mitch, do you know anyone? Yeah, I know Cayn, and it's that same thing, like friends of friends, you're always gonna, more likely connect with and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, I I kept complete control at all times, to my detriment, probably in the end, of my mental health a bit. But yeah, so or like, let's get dual female femme vocals, and Becky came in for a while, and I love that sound, these sharp staccato things that they both do together with different I was probably directing it, but musically, they're the ones that, first came in, and we did this song Raw Vision, and I was like, can you do it kind of like ba 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 ba? And he's like ba 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 and like adding these things, and I'm like, yeah. It was always like, like when something makes you really laugh, or like everyone's like on like in a jam or something. That were kind of the moments that kept the fuel alive. Yeah.
So at the peak of the group's members, how many members do you reckon you had?
Well, if we can call, I was going to be like, if we could call dancers members, as if I'm lowering the form of. I remember we played at Golden Plains and we had 12 people on stage, including 2 dancers. Yeah, but it's so cool, like as well, like touring or hanging out. There's always someone that's on your level at that time, or like haven't caught up with that person. And we all had our own party, and we had our own party on stage every time. So we kind of like, we didn't, it took all the stress off that, because if we have a good time together, then nothing can go wrong.
And what was the grand plan of that? Like you said, Golden Plains is definitely something that you guys wanted to do and did do. Meredith Golden Plains a bunch of times. You get played on Triple R. On the radio like that. You might have got a few little spins on Triple J at one stage.
No, I remember some feedback about us being too adult, which is probably fair. Like
adult is in too provocative, or adult is in too contemporary?
No, I saw it. Well, either we'd aged out, or I think it was actually more the way it was. We kind of got really bold, and it kind of got pretty sexy, like in a way, and just
provocative.
I think provocative. I think it was
in the Fishnets era.
Yeah. Just this song, like I remember it was around the Afterlife, the second album, and I don't know. Yeah, I think it was just a bit bold or something, and not. I've always had an aversion to safe things. I don't believe in. It really turns me off. Not that I'm just less interested. I don't dislike really anything or hate on anything at all. But if I hear something that's just safe, I just can't understand the point. Once again, like jumping into that stuff that scares you, you know?
So then how does it inevitably end then? Because Nozu does have a long, over 10 years.
Yeah.
Or a lot of tours.
Started the solo thing in 2007 and did a couple of final shows last year.
That's a long time.
Yeah, still much sticking it out. We had so many good times. Well, basically, after a tour in 2016, like around Europe and stuff like that, it was awesome. But probably because of the expansion, some things just got more difficult. I was managing everything. We had a booker, but doing everything and insisting on being the one that, early on flights and stuff like that, we did get a booker for that.
Flights for 12 people, man. That's a lot of overheads.
Yeah, and with that many members, we were getting decent fees, but not making any money, of course. Yeah, a lot of splits. And it just, I don't know. I think I just even subconsciously burnt out, and I think there was probably other things going on just in my personal life and whatever. So it kind of went on this hiatus. And then the really sad, tragic thing was Daphne, who was basically, I would say, like, maybe I shouldn't say my greatest creative partner in there, but kind of helped me a lot with like ideas and aesthetics, like more so the show, and being a really great influence on other people, like to get them into the zone, and we talk every day. But she died, and that was obviously a really big deal. But I guess the positive thing that came out of it, well, if you can say that, was it got me thinking about wanting to promote her more and get a bunch of these recordings. We actually had been doing lots of recordings, and she sang on about 4 of them or something, just over at my place and whatever, and really contributed quite like a lot. And so I wanted to release a final EP, and that we called Heatbeat, almost like a definitive last statement. And then the talk got around to like all playing again, and it was like a huge effort, like to get the mechanics back up of like, so many people. And so we had these really like euphoric or like climactic final gigs, I think a couple in Brisbane and 2 at the Nightcap. And it was a really beautiful time, obviously really sad as well. But and it kind of felt like, I remember saying, Nosy, this is something I can do and I will never finish because I am in control or whatever. But it kind of felt like it was the right time, at least for a really extended hiatus now, if not quit, it's finished, for Daphne to be really like, because she was such a strong part of it, to kind of see it off like that.
Yeah, and obviously that's a pretty emotional time for everybody that was close to her and in the band, but I guess it's nice to sort of send her off in that way, especially with putting out some unreleased stuff and then getting, for lack of a better term, the band back together to try and sort of, do that in her honor as well. Yeah,
it was definitely like really the strangest kind of tour and getting back together ever, but like we almost all appreciated each other so much more. We really did feel like a family, and we've got this strong bond like forever. And just, always talking about Daphne and talking about like, it was basically like her spirit, like that had us doing it. And so it actually felt really deep and profound.
Yep.
And a real celebration of Daphne, but also of life and our friendship. And so I never expected that, obviously, but I mean that deeper connection thing, and it was beautiful in a way to be able to just know it's finishing, and a lot of tears and a lot of emotions on stage, and but
you guys knew that was just the natural end. You thought we're not going to keep doing this. This is the natural sort of climax of it, and it felt like it was going out in the right headspace because you'd lost a member.
Yeah, just really bittersweet. But I think I kind of just knew that, so kind of made the call, I guess. But and I think everybody felt like a really good sense of closing a chapter there.
And that, I guess, would be cathartic, as from losing a friend perspective, which everybody deals with it differently.
Yeah.
But for you guys to do that as a group, musically, it would help the grieving process, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Just that collective, like, and it really shows. Like, it's something I know it's another cliche, but like having your chosen families, and we could go into it for a while about being only children and why do I keep creating all these people around me and saying, don't go anywhere. No, they've stuck around. Like, but it really does go, it kind of really validated for me, that what we do, like whether or not many people in the public know about it or whatever, but those creative pursuits and the friendships that you make are just everything in life. Like that's the most important thing to me. Like community and connecting with people now, like, is completely, at least maybe what I wanted to do creatively and have be known as that. My identity is definitely like shrunk to the same as that in a way. Like it's nothing without. It's no point in someone going, oh, cool, I love that song you did, but if you're not being fulfilled in your heart,
that's very true. No, that's
it's
very
lonely, true. And you're just chasing your tail the whole time.
For sure, and I think that's definitely where people that do anything creatively, if you're doing it for the wrong reasons, it comes out as being insincere, and then you are not. But you might.
Yeah, you can't.
You see people do it, right? They might find success musically or in whatever creative pursuit they do.
Yeah.
And they hit rock bottom after they become successful because they weren't doing it for them.
Yeah.
And you find the success, and then they're like, "Fuck, this sucks." You know, that happens a lot, and that's why these people hit rock bottom when they're successful. I think because they're not staying true to why they started doing the art form in the first place.
Exactly. Yeah, it has to come. You need to have some other means of what's the word I'm trying to say? Self-satisfaction sounds like I'm talking about a sexual act, but
no.
Yeah, you know, like you need to. Yeah, well, you say it better. I think you know what I'm trying to say. Is this weird? Is this like the 1970s if I do this?
Yeah. Well, that's part of the Cong. That's sort of bringing us into the Cong era almost.
Yeah, shouldn't be doing this, but you know.
No, who cares, man? So Nozu then has an indefinite hiatus, which we'll say for now is pretty much for good.
Yeah.
But it was a great times. You had how many albums?
We only had 2 albums, some remix like records, some like and on vinyl singles, and that EP at the end. Yeah.
So you produced a bunch of work that you're happy with.
Yeah.
A bunch of friends. A lot of people came and went from the band sort of thing. There's a lot of members and a lot of people that probably weren't even members that just jumped up and came on tours and jumped on stage and all the rest of it. There's a lot of a big community vibe.
Yeah, and also just like what I've really noticed with my latest project is I know all these people just from our gigs now, and so it's like this whole, it's like an ecosystem, you know, like you know that person, like, oh, you're back, hey, and like it actually really felt like we were a little bit, tiny bit of part of the fabric of, you know, the musical landscape at least, or cultural landscape, and that's probably all I ever want. I've often said, like, if I could be a footnote of a footnote of a footnote in something and contributing to culture, then, like, that's it for me. Yeah.
And that does raise a really interesting thing, and something that I think about a lot as somebody who doesn't make my own music, but thinks about it a lot.
Yeah.
When you have, like, projects like Nozu, you never go for commercial success. That's never the ethos, right? But then when you talk about leaving a legacy, that's like you almost want something to strike that chord with the greater population, because then you would get that stamp. So it's that real balancing act of like you want to be successful enough for people to remember you, but you don't want to be commercial enough that you sell out. And it's like there's a fucking real fine line there.
Yeah, and yeah, but it's kind of like as I was saying, like I love these cultures, these scenes, and learning about them. That gives me so much confidence and whatever. That and you know, hopefully, if most people haven't lost this in a capo world, as Carson might have talked about, that I've just really, and this is why I love hip hop. Like the chewing up of culture and regurgitating it tells us our own stories and gives us our own sense of time and stuff like that. So why wouldn't I want to be part of that? With Nozu, I made a deliberate attempt to try to counteract that it was not about me, even though no NO's in the name and stuff, but like there was never a front person, and it was meant to be a collective thing, kind of like reflecting the crowd almost, like we're just another like part of this heaving, you know, what did I call it once, like a mutant octopus thing,
it's an energy,
monster. Yeah, so I tried to take my personal self out of that, just saying that in the record books, that I don't need to have my name necessarily. I would love Nozu though to have been a part of something.
which inadvertently has your name in it.
Yeah, but you know, like I don't know all the band members of these Downtown 81 no wave bands. I don't know most people. I'm a music nerd, but I'm not one of those people that knows who played. Well, sometimes I do, but who played like this instrument on there, or what that singer's name
That's
even
true.
was. Or,
Very true, very true. So so without putting yourself at the forefront, you just want to be some part of something that is remembered, and I think that's what. Most
to know that you were alive, you were in there, you were a part of the world, you know, like
that's it, man.
Yeah,
and that's it, and that's totally what I think a lot of people do with all their creative pursuits that don't have any sort of idea of how they would ever monetize them. They do it because they want to try. And this sounds as fucking tacky as possible.
I don't have that part in my brain. The money side.
But it's like the thing is, you make stuff and you do it because you want to do it, and it sounds really, really tacky, but you want to leave that mark on the world. You just want to do something that you've done different to other people, and that's the mentality. Yeah,
and it's probably also like, I mean, it's not a I was going to say Mother Teresa, but I've heard things about Mother Teresa. It's not a thing like... Is she? Yeah, she is, isn't she? Yeah, she was horrible. Mother Teresa, you're not welcome on this... Actually, that's going to be a hard one. You know, you could get her on there. But not Dexter or Jay. But I think it's just hard, we're getting there, aren't we? But it's almost like it's our role, I think, especially if you're creative or whatever. Like even with this podcast, you bring stories, you're like amplifying, even not, you know, individuals, but just generally the value of creativity and art and stuff. And I just feel like it's not my purpose, but that's what I'm driven to be a part of, or to help change. Or if I see gaps in something, like no one's talking about the Eastern Freeway, that needs to be, people need to talk about the Eastern Freeway. Yeah. No, but you know what, let's put a slight different slant, because we've all got such unique, different perspectives that will resonate, you hope, with other people, yeah.
I'm going to hit you with a really out of there sort of question, which it's not really something I would normally say in a linear format of the show, but do you think art imitates life or life imitates art?
I've kind of, yeah, all right. I was going to like do a politician thing and not answer that in a way. I was going to say that I've always been really interested in like your life as art. Whoa, like
that's a great answer.
Everything that you do, I've heard this from someone before. I'm totally, I just resonate with that. But just like whether it's the way you interact with people, not impressions, but the like what you give them, and it just extends to music's just another extension of that. Yeah.
Because it does, like, because we haven't got to the Cong Josie stuff, even though we've touched on it a lot. But you've got an alter ego, and you've got another guise or whatever. But that is a really interesting way to express yourself, because you're expressing yourself through another medium, which is another entity, which isn't a new thing. You know, David Bowie had multiple of them. A lot of people have done that but it is a different way to express your art in a day and age now with the internet. And everything, people are out there all the time. To take on a persona is a real different way to look at art these days.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess we'll get into the reasons behind it a bit. But yeah, for me, it's like, it gives me once again like that Nozu world. Even for me, I was in that Nozu world. There were like, the rules of the Nozu world, you know, like that sounds a bit stuffy, but like a safe environment to act and to project certain things about us and maybe our shadow selves and stuff like that, in a kind of, what am I trying to say? In a kind of limited space. So like, imagine if, all right, here's the example. Imagine if I was just like being Nick or whatever, and
just
being Nick, I don't know, or and coming out and talking absolute, well, it's not garbage, or maybe it's garbage, but being overly like arrogant and things like that. But if I've got an alter ego or something, it's tapping into something that we all know, but you're not going to be like, I hate that person now.
Yes.
Because that's not just who they are. Or like there's some, I don't know if I'm articulating that very well.
I know exactly what you're saying, right? And you can almost speak for the greater consciousness because everyone's like, well, I kind of think that sometimes, but I don't want to verbalize it. Now, like, for someone who's done it in the last 25 years, Eminem has done that where he's like, well, I'm not saying it. This is my alter ego saying that I want to murder people, right?
Yeah.
And then it resonates with a lot of people that are angsty teenagers. I've got a moth there.
Yeah.
It resonates with angsty teenagers that are like, oh, I have had this moment where I wanted to kill the bully or whatever. Right?
Yeah.
So
you're tapping into a human experience as opposed to this is who I am. And that's what Noza was always trying to do as well, I think, in terms of not that many people paid attention to the lyrics, but there was a lot about belief systems and say like the human kind of need for finding greater meaning or like trance collective states and stuff like that. And
do you think that group worked well because of the time? Do you think that now, just say that organically that built and it was now, do you think it would work, or do you think that was sort of a sign of the times with that sort of collective thing and that the popularization of where music was at then?
I don't know. I actually always felt separate to trends and stuff like that in a way. Obviously you can't help that, and you are part of your role as a creative person is to have people understand you, so therefore you're in a historical context, which I like as well. But I think it's hard to say because I think it can only happen from, it probably has to be the time, but also where I was at psychologically, where I was up to in my musical things and what was happening in my life. So like for me, I would not be able to just recreate it. It would have some other feelings and vibes about it.
Because I often think with music, with some projects, and I'm talking on a more popular scale, would they be popular in this day and age? Were they ahead of their time? Were they behind the times? You know what I mean? There's often things like that happen a lot where you're like, okay, you pick a different. I'll think about a group in my head. I'm like, wow, that person was ahead of their time.
Yeah.
Or if they did that now, that would be so much more well received. You know?
Yeah, and I guess it's an impossible thing.
It is, but that's where my mind goes.
Yeah, but I really like I'm really into some podcasts and stuff like that, and books about history stuff. Things can only exist in this particular political climate and this and that and that. You know, like every documentary, like Vietnam, blah blah blah, like, and they set the scene and so, but I think that's awesome, like to be very aware that you're just you can't escape time and you are being reflective and you're owning that you are a human at this time. Yeah.
We're getting deep.
Yeah, but I love the idea of social, like, I mean, just, you know, like, what do they call it? Like identity politics or where we're at with different things and stuff definitely like shapes my groups and that kind of thing. You know, just probably just choices in this and that and what, I don't know. Yeah, okay, I'm rambling now, but yeah. But we are just of our time and it is inescapable.
Okay.
Yeah. But if the Beatles came back now, no way. Like, I mean, maybe they'd be popular, but just even the music buying stuff and everything and how much stuff is around.
See, this is the thing.
So you can only be of your time.
Yeah, but the Beatles thing is it's a whole different thing because you're like, okay, but we wouldn't be in this point in time musically if they didn't do it back then.
Yes.
It's like the grandfather paradox, but for music.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But then, as you said, there's these acts that are ahead of their time, like this band Suicide that just continue to go on and on. They're like early 70s, on maybe whatever. But they sounded like they should have been in the 80s and they did continue on. But the kind of uniqueness or the what do you call it? They just had this very essence that just travels on and on because they're so ahead of their time. Yeah.
Music, man, it's a crazy thing because it's like, we can put it into different genres, but now as popular music continues, we don't put it into genres. We also put it into time frames.
Yeah.
Well, like that band sounds like they're from the 80s.
Yeah.
What does that mean? There was a lot of different music in the 80s.
Oh, yeah, totally.
But we just give it that label.
Yeah, well, I think we all have that's why I created even our own genre, or like, as a joke with Nozu as Heatbeat, because we all have a lot of shorthand to communicate with each other. So you might be like, oh, Cong Josie really sounds like the 80s and this and that. But really, in 10, I don't know, whatever, you're gonna be like, oh, that sounded like 2000 and what are we now? 24. It just will. Like, yeah.
So I always ask people, like different musicians, to like the similar sort of question. My nan's 86, right?
Yeah.
Now, how do you explain Heatbeat to her?
Heatbeat.
To an 86-year-old.
I would say I had my, how old was she? Maybe 90. My grandma, who's passed away now, she got to come to see us at the NGV once. And she was in a chair, and it was like awesome. She explained it as it was very loud, but it was such a beautiful time to have her there, and all these people were coming up to her afterwards, like, "Oh, you're Nick's grandma." It's like, see that it's hard because I can't use any Parliament Funkadelic references to your gran, I assume, so I can't use those references. I just have to say it's very like. Yeah, I still can't, you're at a barbecue and someone asks me about Cong Josie. Oh, what do you do? And it sounds just horrible on paper when I try to explain it. It's just about reference, like...
Yeah, I guess that's when you just play them and go, it sounds like this.
Yeah, but then I'd feel weird about doing that. But yeah. Or try to like link it in with something that they might know. No,
which is, and that's a dangerous game as well, because then you're saying, well, we're like this, but you're like, well, do we want to be like that? We're influenced by that. Anyway, we've talked about Cong Josie, but let's get to it. So then, inevitably, Cong Josie.
Finally,
right? Tell us.
Do you have like laugh buttons on there?
No, I don't. Have
you can set them up.
Work.
You can set. All right, I asked you to do that, but no. Yes, Cong Josie. Yeah.
The name to start with.
Yeah. The name is the first one that came up in anagram generator of Nic Oogjes.
So that's why you use anagram generators.
Yes, that is why I really encourage anyone to get on, I think it's Ing's anagram generator. And honestly, it's the first one. You can test this if you're really bored and you want to switch this off. I open up another tab. And
but was it anagram for what though?
No, from my name, Nic Oogjes. Okay, right. I typed that in for a persona name, and it came up with Cong Josie. And for me, I was like, and it's proven people love the word Cong. Like people love it, and it works on many puns. Congratulations, conference. There's lots. Right. There's more than I could ever imagine.
And the Josie has the feminine element.
You beat me to the...
Okay, there you go. Well, I just picked that up, but yeah.
Yeah, because I've always felt like I've had this, like, it's something that can be quite confusing for some people, but I find that really strange, that I like to embrace my feminine side. I was always more interested in hanging out with my aunties and my uncles, and being involved in conversations and stuff like that. And it kind of started coming out a lot in Nozu as well, like just pushing that stuff, but kind of like in a way to... I don't want to say role modeling. We were talking about youth work before, so I do youth work, and it's a lot about role model. But even that, actually, like I'll dress completely differently to the kids out there, but we connect instead on a human level.
Yeah.
And hopefully that, anyway, just makes people more open-minded and or see that in themselves a bit more.
In this day and age, like people identify with whichever sexual orientation they want to, and that's all cool. But I guess for what you're doing is, even if you do identify as heterosexual, this gives you a way to tap into your feminine side a bit more. Is that sort of a little bit of what's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I've got this this move that an employee in retail taught me once that I like to use. I'll do it right now. I like to do like kind of stripper moves and stuff but it's coming. Like there's no choreography. I just feel like you don't see many people moving their hips a lot. And yeah, it's this one here. This, you got me there?
Yeah.
Camera one. It's this.
What?
It's this one here. Like, like one of those. It's kind of like a stripper move. But things like that just make. I don't know why. I just feel completely uninhibited, but it's completely me. And that's a whole part of it. We're coming from the Josie thing, but in terms of performance, like if you've ever come to a Cong Josie show, you've never been to a Cong.
I haven't. No. I'll be there.
It's all about losing inhibitions, but once again, like Nozu, that just about self-expression and really trying to bring people into also feeling that. And the crazy thing is, it works. Like our audiences for Nozu as well, the more bold we got, but not in a showy way. It really makes sense with the music, and just how we feel at any moment. Camera?
No, it's okay. The camera, we'll adjust it in a second though. But yeah, so with what you're saying, I'm going to adjust the camera right now. Yeah, so Cong Josie gives you a chance to you can tap into your rock and roll greaser side, which you've never done in a musical project so far.
Yeah.
It makes you predominantly the front person, which with Nozu you sort of were, but there were so many people there you could not have been the front person.
Yeah, I chose not to be. And this is deliberately.
So this is changing it altogether.
It is, but I guess it kind of has some of the same elements in a way that, firstly, it's kind of a separate name or one part of me, genuinely, and yeah, I think I lost my train of thought.
Well, that's okay. But it's a totally different. It's a total different direction to what you have done previously. You get to
in many ways. Yeah.
In many ways, yeah, and even just the musical direction, aside from the aesthetics and the vibe and the character and the persona and the stage presence, you're doing something totally different musically, and you haven't delved into the rock and roll stuff at all previously, really.
No, I haven't. And so I guess to explain it a bit, where this all comes from, and we kind of touched on it before about the archetypes of 50s and 60s. Well, with this project, I started seeing a psych and started like dealing with some mental health things. And of course, in psychology, not 101, I should not say that. In a lot of psychology, they go back to your childhood and everything like that. And I just saw this, well, I didn't even see it. I just felt this urge, followed my nose but excavate myself from even that time where I was, like having to be really, not having to be, like, when I didn't even understand the world, but things hit me emotionally, and it happened to be those periods, like loving for some reason. When you love songs as a child, and I'm sure I'd love to hear a couple of yours, and you don't know why. And I think that's really amazing and beautiful. So that's where it comes from. It's probably me up to puberty, basically, the main references and where it comes from, where the rock and roll thing comes from.
Yeah, so you're tapping into your innocent childhood, what you like from there, because we don't know much musically then. We just like what we like, and we don't know why. Yeah,
exactly. And I guess... and I was going to say this about the feminine side. I guess it's a way of also providing a foil to, if I was just being a masculine rock star kind of thing, that's pretty boring to me, and it's been done to death, and it's not me. and I love to just slightly subvert things to provide a different, like if I'm going to wear like really greaser outfit, often I'll wear also a pink ladies like thing, you know what I mean? Like I'm definitely not going full ball into one genre or trying to like kind of question some ideas of masculinity and what that looks like and stuff like that. And then with the music, like what I was just saying, it's not straight up rock and roll either. It's like from all my history, and it subverts something that could sound like, I was going to say Roy Orbison, but I definitely can't sing like Roy Orbison as much as I try. But by having like a dong, 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 instantly we have to process that as well. Like, so it definitely not going full into any lane and always wanting to just subvert people's expectations or just find what's in me. Yeah.
So before the anagram generator, did the idea or the music come first?
The idea, I'd say, like I wanted to once again, like when I did that rejuvenating period when I started Nozu with no ambition, I remember thinking, I just want to make exactly like I really want to make a song that makes me feel like that. And if someone's like, that's really derivative of this, or what, like it does not matter at all to me. And so once again, I was like this refresh, I guess, and maybe it's a cyclical thing, I don't know, in life where this happens. That once again, people saw it, like took to it in a really genuine way again, which only because it wasn't trying to make people think I'm this or pull it there. I remember I did an interview the other day and someone was like, oh yeah, it's good I wanted to talk to you about this stuff. And I'm like, well, this is the only thing that I'm an expert on myself. I actually am. Well, I'm the closest that anyone could be. And that's how I see music as well.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, it does make sense.
Yeah.
But see, and this sort of now, because you're obviously all about the art, you do this because you love the art, and whether or not it resonates with people is secondary, right? Now, I'm going to hit you with something interesting here. Now, say you do this Cong Josie thing, and somehow, out of nowhere, it becomes successful, right? And people say, we love this. We want to play you on the radio. We want you to do bigger gigs.
Yeah.
Where do you go with that, or do you say this isn't what it's about?
Well, the part of me, it's more the adventure and like leaning and doing things I haven't done before.
Okay.
That would get me over the line in a way. I heard a really refreshing interview with Amel and the Sniffers just yesterday. And the way they kind of approach it is just like loving every moment. Like, oh, we get to do this. And we get to do this.
They work hard, man. Have you seen their tour schedule?
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
Fuck, man.
Yeah. It takes that for that set. But the way that they sound super genuine.
Yeah.
And why would you not want to like go, all right, but once again, you might get into one of those opportunities, but you might, like, I would like to think that I'd be like still subverting things, still kind of, you know, twisting them and stuff like that, or making that part of like the kind of self-deprecating humor of it or whatever, you know, like, yeah, I just want experience and want to do anything. But that said, like our best shows, and we have played biggest shows, thank you very much. And we do get asked, and we do get played on the radio. No, I'm joking. But it's been so awesome and refreshing. And it was like a thing after Nozu that we've played, like, I think some of our favorite gigs have been like at the Gem or Labour in Vain, playing on the floor and having all this, like, all, you know, people that I've met through Cong Josie and stuff, like, just all really connecting. I know that's like people always like, oh, we're really like that. It actually gives me the most joy, and they've been the best shows. Yeah.
And people that are overly successful, they'll tell you that they would give anything to have those intimate gigs again, because that's what the passion and that's what you're all in it for, you know?
Yeah.
Not necessarily for those bigger shows where you find a huge audience and then you're sort of not doing it because you want to do it. You're doing it because other people have got fucking stuff invested in you.
Yeah, and even all of us in the like I didn't decide, but have been very comfortable with working a day job and having this moonlighting, as I call it.
The best way to do it, though.
Yeah, and I feel like it gives me a health. I wouldn't know because I haven't been a successful musician, but like healthy and rounded world, and I get to just put, I got the slight, I wouldn't really even say financial stability, but like this can just be about that. It doesn't. Yeah, I'm terrible at. Many people tell you I like barely look at my bank account. I don't know. I'm off. It scared me so much to do a wash up of a show, like work out what everyone's getting paid yesterday, and I did. I was so proud of myself. But
that stuff brings me anxiety too. Like,
yeah,
I hate it, yeah.
It's like I'm whether it was the Dolomites thing in primary school or a lack of. I think they should teach some more, by the way, in schools. They should teach more financial,
financial.
But I'm illiterate when it comes to that stuff, only to the point that I want to make sure that if someone plays with me and stuff, I will like definitely round things up and really want them to, in this industry the way it is at the moment, we're all like got to try to just be supporting each other and give where we can.
That's totally what it's all about. And I think like with any sort of creative pursuit, and like I get it with this podcast, like sometimes people go, "Oh, so do you pay people to come on it?" I'm like,
"You do, yeah."
Yeah, you'll get a big fat check for $4,000 after this, man. Yeah.
Right, I'll be waiting.
But people say that, and I'm like, look, I'd love to be able to pay people, but before that, we need to make money, and before we make money, we need people to watch it, and before people watch it, we have to create there's all the flow on a tent. And it's like with your gigs, you want to pay everybody, but if there's no money from the venue, if there's no money from the door, then where are we finding this money to pay people?
Yeah, there's no money.
Do it for the art. Do it because you love it.
Yeah, well, like we're about to do a tour just because I really want to, and because I've been totally blind in my head to not even consider that I'm sure we're, it's just a massive. It's not even a risk. I just know it's like I'll just be taking the hit, but
yeah. And that's where you've got to have your merch game on. That's where you'll make your money, I guess.
Should be better at that too, but
no, I've seen it's good.
Oh, like I love to make it, but then it sits in boxes and I don't push it. If I don't sell it, though, we just did a range of singlets, which will go online soon, and they sold like hotcakes, tight tank tops.
Yeah.
You got to take a risk with your merch.
The thing is with merch, and I love the people that do it all themselves. But there are these companies out there that will do it for you, and then you can just and you can just get the kickbacks, which is it's not as personal, but I guess then you can worry about the art, and not worry about the business stuff.
See, that stuff that is like a good thing that starts coming in when you do like kind of that next echelon. Like we kind of touched on it with Noza, but I did not have the managerial drive in the end and stuff. Like, if we were, I don't want to name names of it, people in a different headspace and lifestyle where we're all young and we don't have this or this job or this family and this and that, then sure, you can keep pushing that and doing that. But yeah, for me, it's not even. But yes, that's what I was going to say. That kind of stuff starts becoming nicer. Like if you've got someone that can just book the flights and the accom and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That is a benefit of if you get a bit bigger and like you maybe have to get a merch people or yeah. All right. Like, right now, like the other night, like I just had a couple of friends that I didn't even pay them. Kate from the label was one of them. So there was a vested interest in selling records.
What's the label?
It's It Records. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Kate. It's a one-person operation. Kate Reed and
Kate.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's a struggle for any of those independent labels these days. It's just across the board. I can't believe it. Like it was a really to be frank, like really, and I know this is across the board, but I reckon a couple of years ago we would have like sold a million more tickets pre-sale than now, and I understand it. Like people wait to the very last minute. There's all these kind of different cost of living factors and stuff. It's a really bizarre time.
Very.
Yeah, but to turn it into a positive, I've never seen, the kind of crowd, the scenes that we're involved with and what the community is like. I feel like it's a golden age. Like there is so much awesome stuff. But there's no money.
Well, yeah, it is a thing that we're obviously of the age where we grew up before the internet, right? Now we had to go out and experience things in person. But now people can tick that entertainment box, which we know, you and I know, there's no live aspect.
Yeah.
But people can do that without going to gigs.
Yeah.
And that's the difference, I think.
There's so much on offer for entertainment.
Right. Yeah. You can be entertained with just fucking scrolling and Netflix. I'm bored of this. I'll get on the iPad.
Yeah.
So people can do that. So we know that that's not the real life entertainment that you get, but people are getting their dopamine hits in different ways. Yeah. And they're becoming normalized with that.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
It's not right. It's just how it is.
Oh, it is. It's just how it is. I guess the kind of flip to that is that's maybe what's making it feel even more special. The people out at shows and
the connection.
And yeah, I don't feel like before when I was in bands so much. Maybe it's different because of the kind of setup of this one. But I know so many people. I'd love to call them friends, probably more than acquaintances. But 20 to 30 people at the show that I've talked to at about 5 other Cong shows, and I know about them, and I know this, and also we should mention there's so many good photographers. There's so many people doing it for all the same reasons, documenting and create, like Clara that's done a bunch of our videos. This is just like friends collaborating. There's no money exchange or involved. And
yeah. And this is where we're at. I've got people that help me out with this podcast stuff and other creative avenues. They have a real job where they do their corporate videos or their corporate photography or their corporate graphic design. And you're like, can you help me out with this thing at a live gig? And they're like, fuck yeah, because that's interesting.
Yeah.
But this is sadly where we're at now, that becomes the side pursuit. And the very lucky few can turn that into a real life full-time paying gig.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it's like, without getting pessimistic, but why does the artist and that there's no trickle down. There's a lot getting taken from the top and this and paying, for bill posters and this.
Sure, Carlson can tell you.
Yeah, he could.
Capitalism. And the artists are left behind, man.
Yeah, it's just the ongoing. I've just been listening to a book. It is a book, *Sapiens*. I think it's really famous about human evolution, and they talk about the agricultural revolution as the biggest. For many years we told ourselves that it was like progress and it was like the real civilizing factor, but all it did is make people work longer hours, pursue a single crop or whatever, and then be able to make kings and queens and hierarchies and stuff like that. And so it's like a result of that. Yeah.
We're not going to solve the world's problems tonight, I don't think.
I don't know.
We might. Try.
Yeah. We've come pretty close, I think. Yeah.
With a few ciggy breaks and a couple of beer breaks.
Yeah. A few fancy pants talks, yeah.
Oh, fancy pants. We might have to get him. Should we try and get him on FaceTime after this?
We should, yeah. He's going to love that.
So what else is coming up for Cong Josie and Nic in the future as we look at kind of potentially wrapping it up, man? What's coming up? Tell people what they can do if they want to get in touch with you or they want to see you in the flesh where people should see real live music.
Yeah, I'm all over Instagram, probably a bit too much. Cong's pretty into it. But once again, I'm very lucky, and I know people have a big issue with, I saw a meme the other day about, what was that from Seinfeld? You know that classic when Jerry and George are at the cafe and he's like, what are we doing?
Is that where they grow moustaches?
What is this? What are we doing? Like about hanging out in the coffee shop, but like it was about like how creatives like instead of like creating reels and memes and stuff all the time, like what are we doing? But for Cong, it really works in. So you can go to the Instagram, and we just released an album only a few weeks ago. I want to still say weeks. And hopefully it wasn't. It's still new. Called Moto Zone. And we just have started doing launches, and we're doing a whole bunch, as I said, that's going to put me in financial peril.
Well, tell us about
Please send money.
Where are they?
So the first one's going to be Adelaide, November soon. It's all on there. November soon, which is, I can't wait to get back up there. And then we're going to go to Gold Coast. Never played there.
Whereabouts on the Gold Coast?
Vinny's Dive Bar.
That sounds cool. I've never been, but it looks cool. They do a lot of good gigs.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. And we've got Sacred Hearts, who I love, like a Brisbane band, led by two awesome gals. And Chiffon, Chiffon. The Magnifique. Chiffon the Magnifique. And then we're going to Brisbane. We're meant to be playing in a Mechanics, which would be awesome. But I've just heard we might need to change the venue. And then Sydney the next day. And then we're going to go to Franga, which I think isn't that far. Did I pass?
Yeah, Franga's only half an hour away.
Yeah, to Singing Bird Studios.
Stu's phone number's up there if you want to call. 040858. I won't see the rest, but he wrote the whole number on there.
Great, yeah.
It might even be in this show.
And we've never played Frank's, and I remember just after lockdowns and stuff, regional gigs just popped off, and they're so sick, so I can't wait to do that. And then we're going to play like a Coburg night market thing the next night. So that's a NARM gig.
So I'll be there. I'll come to the Franks and one at Singing Bird for sure.
Sick.
What date is it?
That is December 13. We're really stretching out this Moto Zone.
Okay, I'll be there.
Yeah.
Today, we're giving away
I don't know if anyone else will be.
No, well, I'll be there.
Yeah.
We'll push it.
Yeah.
Today in real life, but not when this episode comes out, because it'll be last week when the episode comes out.
Hold up the newspaper to prove that it's...
to prove. No, but the Flippin' the Bird for 2025 your lineup came out, and that's selling really well. And by the time this comes out, it's probably already sold out, but that'll be at Singing Bird as well. Yeah,
sick. I've heard great things, and I believe it'll be all ages. And I don't know that we've played in all ages, except for shop, record store shows and stuff.
Yeah.
And then we're being booked for other stuff as well. That's good, isn't it? Being booked for other stuff. I don't know. And so what's on for Cong, what Nick and stuff, I think you asked. It's just to keep, already it's kind of interesting. I feel like this might be my ADHD coming out, but my head needs to be filled with projects and stuff like that. But as soon as this album actually came out, it was sweet. It's there's it's a physical record as well, but there it is. And all of a sudden now I'm I'd really like to kind of push that type of thing that's in that song a bit more and stuff the things.
Different narratives or different directions in the music? Still with the Cong?
More everything with Cong I found, because we've released 2 albums now, Cong, ! And Moto Zone. I kind of just feel, and this is what I had with Nozu as well. I was always chasing the ultimate heat beat song. It's like a mirage. So I'm very it will just happen the way it happens. But I always feel could push that doo-woppy element a bit. And something hasn't sounded so EBM before. We could make it more something that's more industrial, but so just really kind of evolving.
Yeah.
Evolving it naturally, yeah.
Yeah, picking apart certain bits that you like and then extrapolating those to make them more of what...
Just more and more, yeah. Bolder or softer or yeah. So for an example, I know we're trying to wrap up maybe. But on the Cong album, because I love Julie Cruz, who sang on Twin Peaks songs and a lot of doo-wop and girl groups and stuff like that. We had this song Persephone about my daughter, And that's like it's kind of a classic, like doo-wop kind of progression in a way, but once again, it's subverting all the time, I feel like. And then kind of like, I kind of almost do like Mark IIs of songs, I feel like. And then we did one called Julie and My Baby, a tribute to Julie Cruz, basically, because it sounded exactly the same. And I thought, geez, we better make reference to this. No, and she was amazing. But instead with that one, the other one was quite beat heavy. And then I thought we could really just have like, I was listening in the headphones, like just have like 3, what do you call it? Pad like string paddy synths, like all like washing over, because I haven't done that yet. So that's just kind of like an example of taking that idea, but like maybe like pushing things in more ways, or being bolder with that. And there's like an a cappella track on the new one and things like that, or like a song called 1300 Scorpio that we have. And I was wearing a cowboy hat when we first started, so country people started liking the stuff, which is fun.
Country's on trend at the moment.
Yeah, well, I started it. I kind of got that idea from post-punk, like Tracy Pugh from the Birthday Party and stuff. But anyway, so that kind of Western world was in there and like really kind of push it. Got a guy like on slide guitar, or with like on the new album. I'm not going to let you finish this podcast.
No,
I'm just
going, man, yeah.
I've always had like a great love for Greek music, and we got Kon Kalamaris playing bouzouki on this full EBM banger, Yussel. Yeah, nah. And he played at the show the other night, and it's just like those kind of like little dreams you remember you've had, and like just trying to go, oh yeah, get to do that. It's so fun. It's like playing in the sandpit.
It is, but that's it. And as you start to become more well known in your craft, working with these people, calling these friends to the sandpit becomes easier.
Well, I think it's kind of like just that, that like we were saying, when bandmates join and stuff, that understanding of what you're doing, and that's like such a joy. Like, yeah, it becomes easy because they know, like, and so I get to build more, instead of trying to reference and be like, well, there's rockabilly vocals and I kind of croon, and then sometimes I'm, like ranting in my voice in my Aussie accent and stuff, but then there's like electronic and it sounds horrible on paper. That's what I was kind of referring to before. Some people, can be like, oh, I get something about Cong.
I get
and
it.
so you get to then work with their expectations, and that's fun. That's so fun.
For sure. Carlson, Al Carlson. Al Carlson.
Yeah.
He recommended you come on the show, and we've made this happen, right?
I would not have done that the other way around,
right.
But yeah.
It's not reciprocal.
Nah. I think we love each other.
So besides who we've mentioned before, we've already thrown a couple of people under the bus that I've reached out to. Who else would you like to see on the show? Maybe don't say the same people again, but who else would you like to see so we can keep this cycle going, man?
Oh, I like that. Oh, someone I'd be, just off the top of my head, there's so many. But maybe there's this band called Serpent, and I'm a bit obsessed with them.
Okay, I'm not
They're like
familiar.
a doom punk band, and Spike, the singer.
I love the name Spike. I was almost going to call my kid Spike. I think
She
it's
looks like a spike.
Such a cool name. Yeah.
Yeah, she wears spikes too. We've had just a few chats, but I just get this feeling that there'd be some really insightful things there, and their band is just great. You got to check them out.
Spike from
Serpent.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can continue this linear journey of people
That would be cool.
nominating. It's like a baton handing over.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, I'm waiting for that episode now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have to put the pressure on Spike.
Do you remember Spike from Degrassi Junior High then as well?
See, now we are definitely the same age.
I just know I can say any reference to you now.
Spike got pregnant at like 14 and was a big deal on Degrassi.
Such a shame. I mean, no, maybe it was a good thing. I know, I'm sure it was challenging. They would have dealt with that in the show. But she, spent a lot of time on her hair, and her hair was sick.
I remember watching that show as a kid, and I was always so perplexed why the kid had the Footscray footy jumper on, in
I saw
Canada.
something come up about that.
No, when I was a kid, I used to watch it. And I'm like,
there's an
why?
explanation somewhere.
I think, yeah.
Did you see the same thing that I saw?
Yeah, I think it was someone who worked in wardrobe was Australian or something.
Okay.
Which to be honest, is the most fucking makes sense.
A very Aussie thing as well, though. Like, hey, let's get.
I go for the Bulldogs.
Get the Bulldogs up there. And I was always perplexed, but not really, just fun to talk about, why the Zit Remedy only ever played one verse. Everybody wants something, they'll take your money. Well, this is a good anti-capo thing. Everybody wants something, they'll take your money and never give up.
See, that resonated because I wasn't as musical, I guess. I just remembered the Bulldogs jumper and Spike's hair and being pregnant. About that song. You remember the name, the Zit Remedy. That's right.
Yeah. I reckon I'm going to call the third album, Cong Josie, the Zit Remedy. Yeah. I needed a remedy in high school, I swear to God.
You can
I wasn't going to go on that Roaccutane shit.
You get the nosebleeds. All the Roaccutane kids got the nosebleeds.
Did they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a bad
well, I just had to deal with being socially isolated, but I could have done with the nosebleeds. No, I didn't want to get the blood tests. They told me I had to get a blood test. That's actually why I didn't do it.
Man, I can actually say I don't think I've ever had really more than one pimple in my life. I'm lucky, but I never had a growth spurt. I'm short, man. See, that's the thing. I never had that sort of puberty kick.
I never got taller either. I don't play basketball. I had dreams. I was going to be in the NBA. I still could.
Man, we had Muggsy Bogues. You know?
Well, yeah, that was always the one thrown around. There was one guy. Wasn't it really? I mean...
Yeah, he was 5'3".
He had a sick name. Is it like
That's not his real name. I don't want to burst your bubble.
Because that's like a 1920s gangster name. Muggsy Bogues.
I can't remember his actual name, but it's something really boring, like Tyrone. I reckon it's Tyrone Muggsy Bogues, yeah. Bursted bubble.
Better call Tyrone. Know that song?
Yes.
Call. Let's keep going. These things don't have tape.
They don't.
We're
recording straight in the SSD.
You got nowhere to go. I do. I'm gonna. Yeah.
Well, do you have to go home?
I don't, but it's a drive.
Did we wrap it up and call Fancy Pants?
Yeah, we're gonna call Fancy Pants. We're gonna call up Fancy Pants.
All right. Nic, I won't attempt to say your last name again because I'll fuck it up.
Same.
AKA Cong Josie. Thanks for coming into the 3000 podcast. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thanks. It's been so fun.
It has been.
Yeah. No, I wasn't lying. It's been good. It's been okay.
It's been all right. It's been okay. Do I get my money now?
Yeah, please. Under the table.
Cheers, man.
Thank you. Yeah.